Good morning, everybody. Steph here. I am so happy to have you on the channel on our adventure today. We are outside of Kanchanaburi, Thailand, and we are going on an adventure without a map, really. We're just going to use street signs. We're just going to go with the flow. We're going about 50 kilometers outside of Kanchanaburi to an old Angkor period Khmer temple system. I know very little about it, so we're going to learn on the way, have a little bit of fun. And for every great adventure, you need, you know, a ship or a steed. And our steed today is, I mean, I don't know if you guys can handle this, or like, if you're just gonna think I'm too cool and you're not gonna be able to watch the channel anymore. It is the Honda Click 150i. Ooh, with the keyless start. So fancy. It has multiple horsepower, more than one. It's a lot of fun. This is the same little scooter that I had for a long time, so it zips around, it goes everywhere we need to go, and it is a lot cheaper than the big bike that I had before. That was a bit of a luxury. So let's go on an adventure. We'll do some riding. I'll show you guys the roads a little bit, but we are gonna tomb raid the heck out of this temple. I'm excited. Let's go. We made it intact. The riding was great. The weather's great. We made it to Prasat Muang. So Prasat just means castle, because there's an old temple that kind of looks like a castle. It's just like a kind of a term, Prasat. But Muang is this place. This place has been known as Muang since at least the year 800. That's how far the records go back. The human habitation of this area has been documented from 2,000 years back. So there's some very interesting burial sites on the fringes here. So we're going to check those out as well. But the main temple complex, so they have 4 main temple complexes here. One that is fairly well preserved, one less so, and 2 that are just kind of stumps. But between the dating evidence on those date back to approximately like 1180. And these are Hindu temples initially, obviously, because this was a Khmer building project. There was no Buddhism. It was Hindu Khmer. And then obviously as Buddhism came to Thailand, they repurposed, just like everybody repurposes. Every religion repurposes what the people were using before them. We're gonna check that out, check out the castles. This is Garuda. That's a pretty big Garuda. But I'm excited. Like, it's a really, really big area. The walls go all the way around. There's a moat. Yes, you ride around or you walk around. Let's just go check it out. Come on. They provide a really neat map of the layout. It's huge, which is awesome, because it really lets you see the scale of the site, because the main complexes, the main archaeological zones are a little bit spread out, so it's kind of hard to see the big picture from inside the historical park. But here you can see they represent the river Kwai Noi, and then this giant wall that goes all the way around the city. And we'll go cruise around that on the motorbike after. You have the city gates at strategic spots. You have these moats, defensive moats that run. They meet the river so that the city is completely surrounded by moats, or the river Kwai Noi. You have your main archaeological zone right in the middle. That's the Prasat, that's the big temple system. Then you have the other ruin sites here, and then it shows all the infrastructure from the park. You can also see the ponds, which are obviously incredibly important. Any fortified city, you're going to need a water source. So you have Kwai Noi, but you also have your ponds, which are incredibly important. Oh, I can't wait. Let's get out there and let's go see what we can see. Let's go get into some trouble. But not really, because we respect cultural history, and we are a guest in this country, and we will always respect their cultural history and their cultural heritage, and we won't muck with nothing. But I want to muck with stuff. Oh no, like at the, oh no, like when I moved the thing at the, All right, let's go. So Angkor Wat or Angkor Thom, these temples are not. But that's also the largest religious structure in the world, so we'll give this one a little bit of grace for not matching that. But what is interesting is these were built in the same time period. So the Khmer Empire lasted a really, really long time. But the height of that empire was the Angkor period. And that's when these were built. And these temples were actually built in the same style, the Bayon style, as Angkor Thom, Angkor Wat. So there's a lot of similarities. In the interpretation center up there, they had just a little hint of this epic, huge monolith head with just an earlobe, I think probably with a little piercing, and just a nose but it looks just like the faces on the Angkor temples. So this place in its prime, when it was originally built as a Hindu temple, would have looked a lot like that. And then of course it's been a very important place since then, reusing our cultural heritage over and over, and it becomes someone else's, but it's all of ours, because if you go back far enough, we're all interconnected. Oh, where are we? We're here. The historical park here wasn't created till the 90s, so this is kind of, it had just grown back over, you know, jungle and dirt mounds. They opened it up, cleaned it up. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And there was a lot of really impressive statues that came out of this area. They're all now in the National Museum or in the Regional Museum. The little museum here they have on site, they weren't that impressive, but you know, I'm not knocking it. Hey, an 11th century statue is an 11th century statue. But the good stuff was here. So you have all, like, this is the base of buildings. Bases of buildings survive pretty well because they're made sturdy and then they get reused. You can just retop them as you like. There's evidence of this would have been a wooden structure on top with a terracotta top. And in this one particular, there were many, many really nice Buddha statues found. And then outside of the temple system is where the older Hindu statues were found, as well as inside, because Hinduism kind of integrated and that old story. So I'm thinking that this main temple, or this main top here, these are wooden poles that come up from this end in, is going to be roofed. And out here, I think this would have been open air. Because there's not the post holes for the other level. Ooh, you see that dome still intact? Look at that. Those roofs, those curves, they do it for me, if you know what I mean. See that tree from over here though. That's sick. Jeff Goldblum. Life finds a way. It always does. First the temple hit me with the dome intact, now it's hitting me with some plaster. Bite my lip. So when we think of ancient ruins, we think of ruins. Ruin, glorious ruin. Isn't that what Byron said? But even when we think of maybe ruins that as Westerners we're more familiar with, so think of Rome or Athens, those temples used to be brightly colored and beautiful. This is, you know, what we have is the shell of them. And it's not even the original shell. It's a shell that's been used and used and used and used. So to dig back to the way back, it would have been beautiful, beautiful places, full of life. I mean, there would have been music and incense, and it would have been amazing. I mean, it's amazing now. But that plaster, that stucco, I don't know how brightly they were decorated, but if I find out, I'm going to let you guys know. This is the goddess, was it Prajapamita? It says here. Prajapamita is the goddess of wisdom, who I'm a big fan of. I've got one of them right here. So, she's lovely. And the gold leaf foil there is commonly used to apply to sacred statues, Buddha statues and other statues too from the kind of Buddhist pantheon, not a pantheon, but the Buddhist and Hindu realm, sphere of influence, let's say. And you'll see a lot of statues that, especially if they are statues of the Buddha, will get dressed in new robes, not infrequently, which is always cool when you see a statue that gets new robes every year, just like the monk would. Or I'm not sure how often monks get new robes. I think it depends on the monk. I think it's so super fitting that in the library, this amazing epic tree growing. How many hundreds of years has that tree experienced and holds that historical record of, in its rings, it's a library in itself of climate knowledge. Like, a tree is a library. I like it. good tree. I have a little bit of formal training in archaeology. I have a certificate in archaeology. But what the tree reminds me of so much is stones are stones. So inorganic, I mean, stones are amazing, rocks are amazing, monumental building is amazing, but it's that cold stone. It's inhuman. It's not until we shape it, until something organic shapes it, until our hands of our ancestors shape it, until it becomes part of our cultural heritage. And that's the same with the tree. It's this spot is remembered in organics in that tree, where the organics that were out here have rotted away. So think of the other building down there where we would have had wooden posts that went up to that terracotta roof. It would have looked completely different with the organics intact. And this culture, this time period, we're just coming into, the metal artifacts are not there like they would be in Europe. They're definitely there, I mean, they were used. But it's different. A lot of organics are lost. So when you just have the stone and the stone carvings and the statuary, I don't know what about that tree is getting to me, but it's getting to me in a good way, in a really good way. Let's go back out this way. Sawadee-ka. So this is one of the ponds. I think there were 6 on site. And it looks like they might keep this one filled up, but not in the dry season. We're in the dry season right now, so it doesn't make sense to waste the water. Oh, these flowers. Ooh, smells good. It's a beautiful tree. We're gonna take the easy way. When you gotta scoot, why not? Scoots magoots it up. Here is a break in the main wall. So here's a gate. This is cool. We'll get off of this. So this just really shows you how big these walls are. Look at that. And this goes all the way around the city. So you have these, each one of the complexes, so like the big Prasat, the big temple, that had its own wall. But the whole complex is surrounded by this. Not to be trifled with. This is not a wall to be trifled with. And then all outside of the wall, there was a moat. And the moat met up with the Kwai Noi. So it was surrounded by water, surrounded by these very formidable defenses. Look at this gate. And so we're not talking, advanced artillery. We're talking about elephant back artillery. So this would have done the trick, I reckon. And not even artillery at that point, you know. And this wall runs for about 1 kilometer. So that part of the city is encircled. This is the south wall of the city here, and the gate's back there. And this is the Kwai Noi right here. So the river's in the same spot pretty much where it was when these walls were built. And you can stay here in a little guest house. That's super cute. So right here on the banks of the Kwai Noi, it's both of them. I really, really like these rivers, the Kwai Yai and the Kwai Noi. I really like rivers in general, which if you've been watching these videos and you continue to watch them, you're probably going to figure that out. So the main Prasat temple system up there, so the big cool temple that we saw, that's 13th century. This is about 700-800 years older. So habitation was here for a long time, and people were utilizing this great spot on the river. The way that the river flooded, it made everything really fertile. It's just a really, really good space to live. And we have some evidence of that here. There are, I don't know if these are the originals or if these are casts, but I am going to be showing approximately 2,000-year-old human remains. So if you don't want to see that, I would turn the video off now. I believe that they are model replicas and that the originals are in the museum. If you so turn that off now if you don't want to see it. You've been warned. So I have just confirmed that the 2 sets of remains that are still here, they are original, and we're going to look at them now. So they've both been identified as female, and both were buried with grave goods. We have bronze axes, metal bracelets, all kinds of pottery and jewelry. These were people that were very loved and put into the ground by people that cared about them and had a thriving culture and loved family the same as we do. This is 2,000 years ago, but people are people, and people lose people and people hurt, so. You can see the archaeological layers here. So the modern layer up here, this is what just the surface layer is. And then you have your secondary archaeological zone, and that's where the temple and the Khmer era buildings are. And then your third archaeological layer is where you have your burials. And then you have a sterile layer underneath where there's no evidence of human habitation. And this isn't the only site in this area. Because this is such a fertile area, there are 3 or 4 other big sites where human remains, even older than these, have been found. So there is a site that's not too far away that I think we're going to try to get to today. I'll link it below if we go. I don't know that we'll go. But the really, really cool thing about all of the sites in the Kanchanaburi area, they hadn't really, the prehistoric sites I should say, hadn't been worked on by Thai archaeology until after the Second World War, because it was a Dutch prisoner of war who had some, a medical physician, I believe, a doctor, had some background in archaeology, had some training, and while he was treating patients, digging the death railway, he also found stone axes, and he found some older metal implements from the beginning of that metal age. So when he went back to Europe, he decided he'd put together a little team, came back, and they started finding all these sites. So the Kanchanaburi area, the area surrounding the Kwai Noi and Kwai Yai, is full of these prehistoric sites. And you have to remember too that grave goods. When we think we don't, in our American Western tradition, Western European tradition, we don't typically bury people with grave goods. You think of how important. So this woman here is buried with a socketed bronze axe. That had to be a prestige item, because metal in this period, in this community, would have been a prestige item. Metal is a magical thing, and you rework it and you rework it, but if you bury somebody with it, it takes all the importance of that item, no matter how many times it's been reworked, and places it with that person. So not only is it a great send-off, but it is a major financial loss for the family too, because maybe everything that person owned goes into the ground with them of any value. So I think these would have been pretty important ladies to have such amazing grave goods. It's going to be constant work. I think there have to be over 100 people that just do the landscaping here to keep it from being reclaimed by the jungle, or by the forest, the very sparse park here. But we can call it a jungle. I don't know how often the buildings themselves are maintained, or if there are plans for more excavations or not, but it'll be interesting in the future to see what else comes out of this area. Prasat Muang Sing, there we have it. This is such a cool little site. It's really close to Kanchanaburi. There's nobody else here. The landscaping is beautiful. There are tons of birds. That pit with the burials, it's freaking dope. So I highly recommend it. I loved spending a couple hours here. I definitely recommend it if you're in the area. And who knows, we might run into some more Khmer temples in the next couple of months. I don't know, maybe, if I don't die first. Because I could always fall off of a 10-baht boat. That's always my biggest fear. That and dying alone. But if I'm on a... There'll be other people on the boat too, but I'm good swimmer. I'm very buoyant. I'm pretty buoyant. I'm probably not going to drown. So I think I'm going to make it. I think it'll be fine. All right. It's beautiful here. Thank you. I love you. Bye. Mwah. Roll that beautiful jackfruit. These are soup. Human remains incoming. If you do not want to see them, turn away now. So here's our early Neolithic Ben Kiao inhabitant, 33 to 3,800 years old. We have Bronze Age human remains here. Turn away if you don't want to see Bronze Age replica human remains. But you can imagine all the pottery, all the metalware, all the jewelry that would have accompanied the person, you know, to take. The in situ bronze, that's pretty awesome. So it's a water bowl and a bangle in situ. How sick is that? 17 to 2300 before present.